Hey, welcome everybody. This is Scott Strode from Blue Chips Nation. Once again, back with another podcast. And today is our first ever guest on the Blue Chips Nation podcast. And we'd like to introduce him as not only the operator of Bracket Sportz, but the Bracket Sportz being the lead sponsor for the podcast. But Zack has also been a partner and a friend and a confidant and all those things for all things Blue Chips Nation. He's been a great help, a great promoter, just a great partner and friend altogether. And we're very happy to have him here and to be able to call him a friend, call him a business partner of sorts, and have him on today. So nothing better fitting than having him as our first guest, I think, especially since you invited me on so many times and helped promote my brand and any event or anything I had going on, Zach. So first of all, thank you for that. And hopefully I can do the same here for the Bracket Sportz stuff you got coming up. And other than that, we'll just have a little chit-chat about things in the past and maybe things of the future.
It sounds good. Appreciate you having me. Yeah, man. I think it's awesome as a community as far as outside of sports writers and news affiliation and all of that. I think what we do some really good. I think we do a really good marketing for kids in the area. I know you got a little bit more broader, where you're more regional, and actually you got some international feel as well. But Blue Chips, you guys have been great since year one. So happy to reciprocate the offer to be on the podcast. I will tell you this: we just had that discussion before we started recording. It's nicer to be on this side of the podcast, being interviewed, rather than doing all the editing and everything. So, hey, man, I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, so, that being said, we'll just rehash. So your brand, before we get started in on the, our last little project together, your brand, Bracket Sportz, is we'll rehash since I didn't do the ad at the beginning. 13 events, 12 of those are 13 events. 12 of those are West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, and then the 13th one is in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, for the national championships. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. Last weekend of June. Man, we had over 80 teams registered last year, which was big growth from the inaugural Bracket Sportz National Championship. I think we had a little bit over 60 teams that first year. Man, it was awesome. We had a lot better competition than the first year. We're already getting some inquiries about new teams that we haven't heard from states like Georgia, Missouri, obviously Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina. So, that national championship is pretty fun. Introduced the rings this year. I think we're going to talk about doing some custom rings for winners, and I think it means something. This is our 5th year in operation. Really, my 4th year, and it's nice to be able to have a tournament like that right at the end of June, right when school ball is kind of finishing up during their summer period, and some teams are really getting back to their travel ball for July, and it's nice to be one of those first tournaments back from school ball, because it seems like more of the kids are refreshed, the coaches are excited, and they're playing for something. So, but yeah, and then those 12 other tournaments, we want to be the brand, the elevator pitches. We want to be the non-live period tournament location within Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio. We don't venture too far into Ohio. because hey, those places are already spoken for. Between me and you, our conversations, they got a mafia over in Columbus and Cincinnati that run that already, and we learned our lessons a couple years ago. But Southern Ohio, there's not enough tournaments, and I feel like our partnership with the Root and Gallipolis and then Rio Grande University, that's really going to kind of turn into something. And I'm glad that we're able to be able to host these tournaments because the alternative for most of these teams that are in this area is to travel to Columbus or Cincinnati or go north and go to Pittsburgh
Right.
because nobody else is throwing any tournaments here. We got quality tournaments here, so
Right. Right. So, I think we've talked about this before, but I'll say it on air, and I've talked to other people about it. Maybe even I've talked about it on, while I've went on podcast previously. But, I think number one, I think having some stability in the location and dates of tournaments it is a big deal. The other thing is we've talked about this. You're kind of you kind of carved your niche there with being a non-live period, operator. A tournament operator, and it's so easy to get caught up in a measuring contest of sorts, with a lot of other people and say, well, I can do that better and I can get those same teams, but, and I can do it cheaper and, I can undercut them and because I'm going to have a live event, blah, 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 blah. And, and the live events they're crazy important. They are really, really important. However, just as you said, we needed a place where people, the non-live events, the people that aren't going to travel more than a couple hours, they needed a place to go. I know, with my own kids kind of following this over the last 10 years, you never knew who, when, where. It was always a big question mark. It'd come, February, and it's like, oh, where are the tournaments going to be? One thing, I love is like I said, the consistency of it, and not only consistency of the places and the dates, but also the consistency of knowing what to expect when you get there. That's a big deal. It's why people, it's why people like Coach Newsom sticks with big shots. It's why people like, I don't know. I don't even want a good example, but it's why people stick to that because they feel comfortable. The consistency is there, and they know what to expect. And I think that the people that's kind of dipped in and out of West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky and Ohio and they've kind of missed the mark on just that consistency of people know what to expect when they get there. You feel like it's a professionally run event and everything is very organized and the prices are reasonable. And again, that that's just business. That really has nothing to do with basketball. That's just being a good business person, as you are, and that lends itself to success. Almost every time, and so that's. I don't think people understand that part of it. I don't want to say people don't, but a lot of people don't understand that part. Like that, this is. It's kind of a gift, to the local, mom and pop teams and the school teams. And I know that's you've had a big uptick with just like school teams that,
yeah,
of course they don't want to get out there on a big circuit or something like that and travel far away from home. And that's a big resource for them to be able to go play against pretty good competition, with the teams that are there. And I know too, well, I'm sure you're not going to disagree with this, but it seems like, and I've paid attention, I'm not able to go to hardly any of your events because of my own stuff going on. But I've kind of watched like the kids and the teams that are participating, and you've had to me, you've had a gradual increase in, it seems like the talented kids.
Yeah.
To the point where I know, there's when you go to these different places, the local college coaches are starting to gain interest and figure out, hey, there's some kids here that, I might be able to take a serious look at. So, I applaud you for kind of like knowing, just being what you are and not trying to be something else. We've got so much of that right now. There's 17 different shoe circuits. I think Hey Dudes is coming out with a shoe circuit for teams or something. But
Skechers,
it's Skechers maybe. It's Timberland. I don't know, but it's just it drives me crazy because it waters everything down, and it's just a constant mad rush to run to this to this circuit, to that circuit, and it's just. It never ends, it just never ends. And, the key is still, consistency. And I had this conversation earlier this morning with somebody that was talking about a tournament circuit. And I told them, I said, the bottom line is it doesn't matter where you play. Yes, you should play. If you've got college kids, college level players, and and you should absolutely play in live events. However, I said it doesn't matter where you're playing at. The bottom line is if college coaches don't trust the guys that are running the team, it's a moot point. They have to be able to, because they're dealing with too many. There's 3,000 teams out there that are trying to get names to college coaches, and they're only going to run to the ones they trust, and again, that's why, people like, Coach Newsom, because he's had relationships with college coaches for 20 years, that's why he places so many kids, is because they trust him, and he doesn't give them bullshit when they come and ask him questions. He doesn't try to push kids, a certain kid above a level that he should be. He's like, yeah, this guy can play at that level. I'm confident, whatever. That's still the key in all of this is, whether it's a team that comes and plays 10 of your events or 10 Big Shots events, or they play the entire Made Hoops circuit or whatever. If the college coaches, if they can't trust you when they get, when they're looking for kids, they're looking for, some insight on a couple kids on your roster, it's over. It's over. And that's not my opinion. That's not even my experience. That is the feedback from the coaches themselves. So we're too caught up in, where we're playing and who we're playing against. And I don't know. I can preach for another 2 hours.
I agree with you. I agree with you, dude. I agree with you 100%. This is a continuous conversation that continues to go on between me, yourself, and a few others that are in the community that kind of help to support it. But a lot of things. There's a couple points there. One thing you hit on the head is, hey, if you're not if you're not advertising your own kids, or if maybe you're new to basketball, travel basketball.
Yeah.
We don't even say, I'm not even saying AAU basketball anymore, because they're an affiliated company and they've kind of gone to the wayside. Their focus is more on the girls' side. They kind of forgot about the boys because these shoe brands took over the boys, right? As far as at the high level, high visibility, and so forth. But that high visibility doesn't cater to everybody, okay? No. Especially, back in 2023, the WVSSAC, they went ahead and changed their rules as far as spring participation, summer participation for high school sports, right? So now you get these days. There's not a time period. You just get X amount of days throughout the year to go back to your team and participate. Go back to your point as far as the local high school teams. They're just coming to our tournaments. They're able to go ahead and see what teams are coming from Eastern Ohio, Eastern Kentucky, Virginia, Maryland, PA. So they're able to come to our tournaments and see, if their regular schedule during school season doesn't allow them to go travel, hey, make it easy. Go to Bridgeport, West Virginia,
Yeah.
and then go play some new competition.
Right.
Go to Morgantown if you're a middle school. We have a Morgantown tournament early on in the season. It's right after the season ends for middle school players. We're going to be hosting all the way up to eighth grade teams up there. Go there, see some new competition because we're already getting inquiries from kids from teams from other states. And then the other thing too is you mentioned the local colleges. In the last 4 years since I've been involved, even after our first year, it's crazy to see some of these high school kids that just finished up or they're getting ready to finish up, going into 11th grade on what we allow to participate in our tournaments, and they're like, "Hey, we went to your Gallipolis tournament last year, and we talked to a coach. Uh, we went to the Owensboro, Kentucky tournament, and we were able to be seen by um, Kentucky Wesleyan. Kentucky Wesleyan coach was able to reach out to me. So, so those are the real kind of cool things about being on non-live period tournaments, and these coaches, these local college coaches, they're going to have access to the tournament because one, they got a kid playing, or two, they're in the area and they just want to show up, or three, Zack Deal and Ronnie Smith has already reached out to them via email and sent them the rosters that were submitted prior to the tournament, so they're there
Right.
to
Yep.
see somebody. So there's just a bunch of good things, and like I said, and you said it best, we're not trying to overreach or do anything outside of our capability. Um, but yeah, it's real exciting stuff, and the rest of those conversations, it can go on forever. If you're new to travel basketball, and you're new to certain circuits, I think we're a good location to start. I will never direct you in the wrong location. And I'm not saying if you have quality players and you're looking for live period tournaments, go play in Jam Fest. Go play in Big Shots. Go play where you think your fit is going to be best. We always talk about fit when colleges, but you don't have to get away from fit as far as being a middle school organizer or being a high school um, travel ball coach. You need to be able to realize what your fit is. Now, if you're just throwing up a team and you're going to go to a live period tournament and pay the $4.95 or $5.50 to get in, and you don't have any communication with college coaches, that's a waste of time for everybody because you're you're probably not going to perform very well, and nobody's going to come to your game. But Uh, but um, but anyways, no, I really like the kind words that you had to say about Bracket Sportz and so forth. Now let's talk a little bit about kind of our relationship as far as Blue Chip Hoops and what we're able to do. Back in the summer, I was able to help out with the Hoop Summit, which is a really cool event. And that was your second year hosting that?
Yeah, that was year two, the second annual. So, um, the first year, I think we had 90 kids. This year we had 100 plus about 15 on a waiting list because we just can't do any more than 100 there. Really, 100 is too many for that gym. I mean, it works out well because you can put, you can have just that many on those 5 courts. I would like to have it, just trimmed down just a little to make it a little easier for the coaches to scout it. But I've got a little bit too big a heart to tell kids no, and but I did have to tell them no after 100. So So yeah, that's at the Milan Park facility there in Morgantown, which those people have been absolutely fabulous to work with. If people haven't been out there to see that place, see all the facilities out there, that place is absolutely magnificent. The football, baseball facilities, the soccer facility. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. But anyway, they've been so easy to work with. It's just it's crazy. It's refreshing that there's people out there that still they just want to have events. You pay the rent and they do everything they can to accommodate you. It's just it's so stress free and nice to have places like that. So kudos to them. Derek Good is the guy that books us there, and that staff up there has just been Tacoma Neal has worked with us there. Just they've been absolutely phenomenal. So for people not familiar, what we do with that event is it's a showcase event, but we do a lot more 5-on-5 showcasing than anything else. When I started this, the year leading up to this, I did kind of 2 years of research and R&D, if you will, on what kind of event that college coaches wanted to see, and this was the feedback that I got. They wanted to cut the fluff. They didn't want to hear a speaker. They didn't want to see a dunk contest. They didn't need to see a 3-point contest. They wanted to get a little skill work, and then they want to get guys in 5-on-5 and see how they move, see how they pass, see how they, finish, and see them when they dunk and see them when they whatever. Can they handle the ball? Can they handle pressure? Can they, play help defense? That's the stuff they need to see. And that was the feedback that I was getting was there just wasn't enough of that. There was too much fluff, too much, with the other showcases. And I'm not saying that. That was the feedback that I got. So I fixed it and, come up with my own format, based on that feedback. And that's what this derived from. So, and you gotta have coaches there. We went from 8 coaches the first year to 18 this past year. Not this past year, but this past August. And from everywhere from, Division II down. Wheeling University was there, and they were there, and they ID'd some kids that they were really, really interested in. So, we had Appalachian State, we had Bethany, we had Waynesburg, we had Wheeling University, we had Potomac State, Garrett College, PSU Altoona, Washington Jefferson, Westminster. That's just the ones off the top of my head that I'm thinking of. So, it serves the purpose of what it's needed for. It's get in, get out. We don't waste a lot of time. We don't spend a lot of time there. It's a couple hours long, and we get after it, for that couple hours. Let everybody get in, get scouted, and get going. Usually, most of the coaches know when they come into now. Number one, one of the other things that I do is the coaches all get a coach's packet before they get there. I'll send it to them in a spreadsheet digitally. And so they can already work their scouting angles before they even get there. And then, so they can concentrate on what courts. And it worked out exactly that way. They could concentrate on exactly what courts they wanted to go to. And they knew, most of them had 4 or 5 players they wanted to watch. And they got in. They got those, in a couple hours, got to watch all those players, and they were done. Rather than trying to sift through 100 kids and and hold a paper. I mean, we had a paper coaches packet as well, but hold a paper coaches packet and try to figure out who's this and who's that and what team they're on, what color shirt they're wearing. Guys they were able to identify guys ahead of time, and I helped a lot of them with that. Like, hey, who are the good wings, or who's where can I want to see 2 or 3 good point guards, point me in this direction. We did a lot of that, and that's just part of it. So, taking a lot of pride in that, in that event, and kind of made it my own. And it's been received with a lot of praise from players, parents, and college coaches. Of course, we had some loose ends, as well as I do. We had some loose ends. We didn't get tied up in time, and that's my fault. It's nobody's fault but mine. I've got too much on my plate. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, just got too much on my plate, and there's just too many things. I just kind of left undone, but. It all worked out, thanks to people like you and, Steve Shockey that stepped in, my 15-year-old son that missed his wake-up call and couldn't play anyway, so he ended up running the clock for us. Just some great people that jumped in there and, that see the value in that event and, they kind of come in clutch. Lost my train of thought there. Oh, one thing I'll go ahead and talk about, and I don't know if I mentioned this on any other podcast, but one thing I'm going to do off of that note is I'm going to bring in Danny Zuchak next year. Those of you who know Danny coached at Bethany. He's now at Westminster. One of the great young coaches, not just D3, but at any level, great young coaches. Recruiter, evaluator. Danny also runs the Outwork showcases that have been wildly successful up in Cleveland, Florida, and I think he's got one more, and I don't remember where. I can't remember, but maybe it's just those two. I can't remember. But anyway, he's just one of those guys. He's crazy organized, a lot of energy. Just a good young mind, and he's obviously has a lot of experience in this stuff. Danny's going to come aboard and basically be the director of this event going forward, and be a business partner of mine on that event. He'll take it to the next level, quite honestly, and the talent level will grow. We can't grow it. As far as numbers, it'll probably get trimmed down to about 80 players, and it'll be invite only, and it'll be he'll bring in some guys from Ohio and PA, and the caliber of talent there will probably go up considerably, and and that's what it's all about. I'm all about trying to get West Virginia kids a look. And there's going to be quite a few of those that get invited, but it's impossible to invite everybody, and I can't get 7,000 kids in a gym, so it's just not going to work out that way.
Two sessions.
Well, I'm not making that decision. If Danny wants to run 2 sessions, go for it. Let's go. But I would rule it out.
I think my liver would fail if we end up doing 2 sessions, 2 different days.
We just have to do them in one day.
Yeah.
But like I said, Danny's going to run. He's going to operate. He's going to be that. I'm still going to do all the logistical stuff ahead of time, the sign-ups, the payments, all the business side. He's going to be in charge of basically the itinerary for the event. He's going to hire the coaches. The coaches we will pay the coaches. I haven't done that in the past, but this year he will pay the coaches. Some other bullet points I'm trying to think of. It'll just be more organized, all around. It'll just be better organized, and it'll be a better event for it. And for the money that people pay, and I know $100 isn't a big deal anymore. Or whatever it was we charge. I mean, to me it is though. I want people to get great value in their experience there, and I want the kids to get great value in their time, in front of coaches. So it's important to me that they that this be well organized and a high quality event. So I think we've gotten better from year 1 to year 2. And year 3 and year 4 are going to be, we're going to step it up considerably those years. I feel like so. welcome aboard, Coach Zuchak, and he's going to be a great asset for us in our event planning for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And what's nice is that we can get some more people involved, right? Like pure prospects. Some more people kind of like ourselves as far as coming up there, highlighting some kids, and
Yeah,
maybe bringing some more. Kevin Moses, he's a local favorite. He's great. I've worked a relationship with Kevin for a long time, so he's got an eye for talent, just like yourself. But yeah, the the hoop summit was awesome. It was kind of a rough stretch there, kind of getting everybody checked in and everything. But
yeah,
once the basketball started, it was great
yeah,
experience for everybody involved. Not only you as far as holding it, but the college coaches that ended up showing up and actually coaching some of the teams versus the five versus five session. And we saw some really good games.
yeah,
Like for a Saturday, and 100 kids showing up, and not only I know most of the Hoop Summit was juniors and seniors, but you also had freshmen, sophomores. It's great for them to get that experience,
yeah,
going, dipping their toe into that, seeing what the next level kind of looks like, and the next level could either be those kids, freshmen and sophomores, seeing what it takes to become a junior and senior, or you know somebody getting an early eye on a 6'6", 6'7", 6'5" kid from a college, being able to ask about them, get their information. But
yeah,
I thought the competition was great. The court that I was in charge of, it was it was awesome. Every game was real competitive. There's no blowouts. Like I said, the kids were able to go ahead and be thrown into a college like system as far as defense and offensive side of the ball. They got great coaching points.
yeah,
Um, they're able to play man throughout. And they got some really good coaching points, like I said, and the games were awesome. Uh, what another thing at an event like that, I thought you did a really good job on leveraging the local referees. I thought the referees were very accustomed to the facility. The court situation is kind of laid out a little bit different, but they knew exactly where to go, and they got adapted to the rules really quick. And I thought it was an awesome event. There were a few standouts that really kind of caught my eye. I know Jay Smith. He's at Bluefield High School. He's about 6'3", 6'4". A really good athlete. Another one that stood out to me from St. Joe down here in Huntington was Noah Keaton. He kind of stood out to me once he got onto my court. Um, Eliam Eric, huge frame, 6'10". He won't be hard to miss. He was able to go ahead and make a point to make some plays, and got some really good feedback from the college coaches. Luke Byrer from University High School. I just found out today that he's a two-sport athlete. I always just thought he was a basketball player. But anyways, ended up playing for University. And like I said, I didn't know he was a football player. Had a really good season. They went to the semifinals and the playoffs for football. Ended up beating my Highlanders in the second round. So, hey, Luke, that's pretty impressive. But also, like I said, I commend you on your basketball skills as well. And then Brody Shockey, Coach Shockey's son, he stands out. See him all over Teays Valley, working out, playing. 6'2" combo guard. He's doing what he's supposed to do to the competition that he plays. So continue doing that. Um, and I don't know. I just saw some really good talent. I just mentioned kids that were, you know, maybe their senior year and then also their freshman year. And like I said, I think it's a great experience. If you had 3 or 4 of these, and then you had some college camps, maybe in July or June, and then you sprinkle in, or you don't sprinkle in, you go heavy on travel ball. I mean, that's the formula you kind of have to have nowadays, because the whole landscape on recruiting has changed as well, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they're not recruiting too many high school kids anymore, but they are recruiting prep, JUCO, Division two, Division three, um, and then other Division twos are recruiting other Division two players. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so it's crazy. It's a crazy landscape, but I think these are things that will get you in front of as many eyes as possible. And it's a really good event, like you said. How many colleges did you have there?
I don't remember exactly how many schools. I think there were 18 coaches total.
Yeah,
I think 15 was the number of actual schools. I named what, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. So I named about half of those. And I don't know why I can't remember the rest of them, but it was a nice mix of two junior colleges in the building. A Division two, several Division threes. Just a nice mix of everybody there could find kids, could ID kids that they were interested in, and I when Wheeling came in, Coach Richardson, I was kind of surprised. I had invited him because we didn't really know what the rules were going to be. He and I talked about that probably in July, and he had told me, he's like, hey, we don't really know what the rules are going to be. That's a bad thing, and I guess they have to do it sometime. The NCAA has to do it sometime, and August is just when they change things. But I think he had called and got clarification, that he was allowed to be there, and he wasn't allowed to talk to any players or anything like that, but he was allowed to be there and just watch. So he and his assistant were there, and when he came in, I thought, I hope there's guys here that that catch his eye. I knew there's a couple that probably should, but I didn't know, really what he was looking for. And he left there, and they had pages and pages and pages of notes and evaluations. His assistant worked. I mean, he was like a madman going from court to court to court,
yeah,
and checking guys out. So, when you see that, number one, that tells you you're doing something right. You've got the right guys there. I even had that comment from a couple coaches that told me, he said, I did a good job of getting the right kids there. And again, that's what I'm trying to, accomplish is I don't want it to be perceived as a money grab. I want it to be a serious recruiting event. And, and I've told kids that, like, this is not, come in and jack around for 2 hours. Like, this is a serious recruiting event. There is going to be coaches 5 feet from you from the court that are going to be like, this is serious stuff. And, I'd rather give away a spot, to an event like that for a kid that's absolutely 100% serious than I would collect $100 from a kid that doesn't give a shit. I mean,
well,
that just, that event isn't, I've told everybody for 2 years, like, that's, it's not to make money. It serves me in so many other purposes, other than just make money at the table, when people come in. I get a ton of evaluation miles out of it, where I just get kids and I can just see kids in front of me, in person, which means a lot. The recruiting aspects, it helps build my trust. It helps build my relationships with people like Coach Richardson, with people like, I know all these coaches' names are going to, the head coach at Garrett College, Matt McCullough. We didn't really know each other. We ran into each other, shook hands, had a short conversation. He told me who he was interested in. Thanked me for inviting him. Thanked me, for having quality kids there. He saw the value in it right away. And of course, Waynesburg, Bethany, those guys are all going to have guys that they, if they haven't already, that they offer from this event. Westminster, same thing. Washington Jefferson was there. I know who else. Coach Staley, Brandon Staley who's from Morgantown. He is assistant coach at I can't think of the the I can't think of the school that's up in Cleveland, but Division II school up in Cleveland. I heard that several times. Had the right kids there, and again, I worked really, really hard to get those right kids there, and I invited a lot of kids from PA, several kids from Ohio, Kentucky, and I had 3 or 4 kids from Kentucky that actually showed up. So we did our best to get the right kids there, and I didn't feel like there was anybody in the gym that was over their head. Even those freshmen. We had a couple of incoming freshmen, 2029s that I invited, and that was tough because that explained to people like I can't invite all of them. Even though it'd be great to have another 50 kids there at $100 a pop, but that's not what it's all about. When I did the 2 sessions last year, we did a younger group and an older group. Well, we did the older group, and the coach, after it was over, that the coaches left, and the younger guys were there, and there was nobody there to watch them. So I thought, I'm going to change that a little bit, and I'm just going to bring a select group of young guys in. And it was guys that I was familiar with, guys that I'd seen play, guys that I felt confident would be college prospects in the future, and it was guys that had already played varsity basketball, or that I knew were going to play varsity basketball, one or the other. There was probably only 15, freshmen and sophomores, but that worked out well. The rest were juniors and seniors. So,
hey, honestly, if I'm a coach or I'm a parent, I am beating down the door on Scotts Road. Hey, let my kid get in here, right? As a freshman, sophomore, he needs this experience. So, if you're out there and you're listening, or your kid's halfway serious about, playing college and he has aspirations and all that, quit listening to the noise and just go ahead and take advantage of what's in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I do want to mention one thing. While we were talking about Wheeling University, I did pull up their roster. Without you kind of going to research it, how many kids do you think are on their roster for the 25-26 men's basketball season?
How many kids? How many total?
How many players do you think they have on their roster?
22.
It's 20. I counted 24. You might be right. But how many are from West Virginia? How many do you know, or do you think?
I think there's 5.
There's 5. You're right. Hey, you know your numbers. So guess what? They've got guys in Wheeling University, right there in Wheeling, West Virginia. They're recruiting guys from Florida. They're recruiting them from PA, Wisconsin, Maryland, Virginia. So this is my thing, all right? So, people forget about the Mountain East, right? As far as being, one of the best quality Division II conferences around.
Mm-hmm.
Probably year in, year out, one of the better Division II conferences within the United States. You don't have to go very far to get recruited by a coach that knows what they're doing, that recruits across the nation, the United States. And also, you got guys out of Cameron, West Virginia, playing there. You got guys out of Beckley, West Virginia, playing there. And it's just awesome. It's just awesome. And like I said, they're getting the opportunity. They may be getting a full ride. They may be getting a partial scholarship. They may be getting a little NIL somehow. They're getting an opportunity to continue playing. So I just wanted to drive home that point. Hey, just in Wheeling, West Virginia, Wheeling University, Coach Richardson is doing God's work as far as providing opportunities for local West Virginia kids from Florida, kids from New York, kids from all over the place have opportunity to come and play. And just like the other schools, you got schools right down the road as well up there. But yeah, it's exciting stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we just try to kind of cater to that, and it's just if it's your first time listening to a podcast with Blue Chip, or first time hearing me speak, these are things that we constantly talk about. We have to remind people
Yeah.
about. Think Potomac State, all right? Oh my God! If you're a kid that wants to play right off the bat, and you got an offer from Potomac State, what are we saying? Go there, right? Go there. Go immediately there and go start playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're going to get recruited. You're going to get recruited from Potomac State.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I've went off the rails, I think, a couple times on my Solid podcast about kids turning their noses up at Potomac State or just JUCOs in general, and that's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. Kids they don't know what they don't know. They don't get that part of it. I know it's very, very frustrating for Coach Folk over there. When kids just don't give them the time of day, and this JUCO. Now this is starting to kind of diffuse, but JUCO still has this stigma as like, well, you're not good enough. And that's not what it means. If you're not good enough, you're not going to get an opportunity. That's when you're not good enough. That has nothing to do with, and kids have to understand, nobody wants high school kids. Nobody. They don't want high school kids. If they take high school kids, it's because they have to. Fairmont State does not want high school kids. They don't. They don't want high school kids. Glenville does not want high school kids. Unless you're going to come in and pay the full tuition, they'll put you in as a walk-on. Which is great, but you're a walk-on, and you're not a scholarship player, and and that's fine.
Okay, so if you walk on at Glenville State, most likely you're going to be a practice player.
Yep.
And then you're going to play whoever they can find to
Yeah.
come in there and play you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna. You get to go to every home game, wear the uniform, sit at the end of the bench, clap, and be a part of the program and learn basketball at the highest level. Don't get me wrong; there's nothing wrong with that. And if one of my kids would have wanted to do that, put it this way: if one of my boys that's already graduated, if they wanted to coach basketball, I would have found them a spot to do that so they could learn basketball at the highest level. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. But what I'm saying is that, and it sounds, this sounds rough to say, but again, those Division II schools do not want high school kids. They want transfers. They want JUCO kids. They want kids that have come from a prep school and reclassed. They want kids that come from a post-grad academy. That's what they want. Now, can they fill an entire roster like that? Not very often. Usually they've got to take one or two high school kids, and it doesn't mean they don't want those guys, but what I mean is they're looking there last. That comes last. Now, I'll kind of transition into this, and I mentioned this in the Solid podcast about and I was talking about Drew Green, from the coach from Concord. And we'll have Jeff Dolan on from Verbal Commits, who runs these JUCO jamborees, the one that they had in Pittsburgh, and the one they had in Bridgeport. I'm kind of spinning off on this. These events are so crazy. The level of player in these events is so high. It's mind-boggling, and they are ranked like it is. I didn't know what to expect when it's so, I'm gonna say organized. Your events are organized. Like, these are so serious. People are all. There were so many college coaches there that I knew, that I text and I DM and things back and forth at this at this jamboree. They were so serious and locked in. I didn't want to, Coach Folk from Potomac State said, "Why didn't you stop by and talk to me?" And I'm like, dude, you were so zeroed in and focused. I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't want to piss you off and interrupt. They were hardcore evaluating because every court is filled with a team of every kid is college caliber because it's like, there's 40 teams, 30 of them are JUCO, the rest of them are post grads. And other than schools like Wesley Christian, who, is a basketball factory, if you will, or the post grad and the national team for Expressions Prep and Huntington Prep were both there, which are, Huntington Prep is actually, is supposed to be a high school team, but and it is high school age kids, but it's not a high school. You know what I mean? That was such a different experience, and I talked to Coach Boswell, Preston Boswell, after that, and talked to him about how I loved the environment because it was just no bullshit. It was all business the whole time. From the minute you walked in the doors, everybody was there. Nobody gave a crap about what your uniforms looked like. Nobody cared whatever. Everybody was there. You got the JUCO guys are there with their coaches, with their college coaches. It's a serious thing, and it's just so different, and
with the player's mentality, right?
Absolutely.
From what you told me, I didn't get a chance to make it. I'll make it next year. But what you told me was the players, not only on blue chip, a post grad, but also the other players on the other teams were locked in. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
It was a business trip.
Yeah.
They understood the situation that they accepted. Hey, I'm here at a JUCO prep event. I'm here to put a show on, not embarrass myself, take care of the ball, don't create turnovers, and play some good basketball, right?
Yeah.
And they knew it was a show. Guess who else? You already mentioned it. The other colleges that were there, they were locked in, right? So when that happens and you set up an environment like that, there's some magic getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
People's lives are about to change. And most of the time, they change for the better. Somebody gets another opportunity. Somebody gets another year to extend their career outside of youth organized or high school organized basketball. And I think that's the most important part, because what will happen as far as the recruiting stages, pillars, or what have you. I mean, they've changed in the last 4 years since I've been involved, but they always start colleges, or what are they doing? If they're not JUCO or prep to get you to another location, if that's not their job, they are re-recruiting their own players, right? So that's the first step that they have to do when they have to recruit their own players again.
Yeah.
And then those spots will open up because you have transfers. You have kids that are going through the racket as far as staying in. The name of the game is longevity. How long can you stay involved at a high level and be a professional? So, anyways, these are things that we can talk about forever. I don't think there's enough time on my battery life to be able to talk about it. But and I don't know, it's real exciting stuff. I can't wait to hear that conversation that you have with him.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. He's and Jeff Dolan was. I mean, we played the two of their events, and to say that they accommodated us, it would be a slap in the face to him and the efforts that he put in and trying to match us up. Number one, trying to, I told him we only wanted to do one day, and the level of effort that he put in trying to get us scheduled to where we could just play 2 games in one day and be done, because that was our very first event. I didn't know how it would go. I didn't know how many bodies I could get there, and from there he just worked tirelessly. It's amazing the amount of work that guy puts into those. I do know on Saturday when they had that event. That was in September. When they were doing the live stream, they had over 220 coaches viewing. That was either there in person or viewing via live stream. There's just nothing else like that. I mean, there just isn't. And they had coaches from Pepperdine all the way to on the West Coast to LaSalle on the East Coast. I mean, and you got all the Division twos and Division threes and NAIAs and JUCOs and everything else in between there, or they're watching, or they're watching online. It's just it's serious. It's very, very serious. And like Coach Boswell told me, like there's coaches like they won't even go to AAU events now. They just go to those jamborees and call it a day because
unless you're bringing the show to them, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're bringing the show to them. So think about. So my opinion is that's cool, the shoe circuit and everything, but I think it's seen its peak. I think it's ran its course. And what you're starting to see now is like huge organizers of these AAU, or not AAU, travel basketball organizations, the guys that have 10, 15 teams, and they have filtered organizations that feed in, feeder organizations that feed into their high school programs. They're starting to realize, hey, we actually need to create a league of ourselves. It's happened on the girls' side. I see leagues showing up all the time where these organizers are getting together and going directly to college programs at all levels, right? So the whole money grab as far as live theater tournaments and so forth, I think if your IQ's high enough, I think you can realize, hey, it's the peak is over. There's more the people that the hey dudes, the sketchers are kind of late to the show. It's going to turn into something. It's going to turn into something different, and it's always evolving, just like everything else. But that's kind of my outlook on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think there's going to be a big shift. I really do. And I think a lot of it's driven by. It's driven by the transfer portal, the NIL, and indirectly, it's driven that way indirectly. And what are you gonna do? I mean, you gotta just go with the flow and get in your lane and figure out what's what's there. That's one of the things I love about where you're at is there's the need for that is not going to go away. It isn't necessarily driven by it has nothing to do with the transfer portal or anything like that. And neither does a lot of the other circuits, until you get up into the EYBL and stuff like that. Because Division I guys get pushed down. And now it's in the Division II area, where everything's been suppressed so far. And that's why you're seeing this big resurgence of JUCO. And it's why guys in West Virginia stop shitting on JUCO. You sound like an idiot. JUCO is the the hottest thing right now in the country, and it's where everybody's attention is going to go. And if it's not already there, you just heard me say what a top NAIA coach said about where they look first, and it's not high school. It's transfer portal first, JUCO second, and then post grad, and then prep school, and that's the reality of it. And I've heard 1,000 coaches say that in the last 12 months. So that's why these JUCO events are going to probably start stealing some thunder from some other things. I mean, and what choice does anybody have? That's recruiting at that that mid level. So. And we'll just play along and do what we got to do. So,
Yeah, so you're fit, right? Yeah, you got to fit in where you can. That's
Yeah.
how you can be most help. I tell you what, like I'm starting to see a trend. Like my kids, especially my boy, he's starting to play basketball. And kind of, he's in third grade playing, and we started playing in the local high school league for youth league, right? And I think this particular organization, they do a good job getting sponsorships. They do run a good business, like probably nonprofit, right, for the league. But man, I tell you what, these coaches, and we've had a conversation, I think last week on the phone or something. So the coaches of these teams, these youth teams, they forget that they're coaching third and fourth graders.
Yeah.
They're Some of them are berating some of their own kids that play on the team or other players, to the point where it's frustrating for the parent of the player, or even it's just kind of embarrassing, and embarrassing on many different ways. You're there as a parent. You pay a $3 fee for your kid to get in, but
Yeah.
then also there's no like attaboy afterwards or serving a coaching point. You're really just kind of just yelling. And like my point is, at third and fourth grade, up until about 10 years old, it should be about fun, right? It should be lackadaisical, guard down. Let's just have fun, play basketball, right? Like I'm going to give you some coaching points. I need you to reinforce that, but it's not the military. I've been there. It's not the military. You don't need a drill sergeant coaching third or fourth grade.
Not
Boys and girls
usually.
basketball. No, you don't. You don't. And honestly, this isn't inner city anywhere. Okay, this isn't inner city Cleveland. This isn't where it takes those kids that are probably 8, 9 years old. They're living a different life than somebody in Teays Valley, West Virginia, right? So, my thing is, it's usually the same person that has that mentality on win at all costs or whatever. That's usually the same person that gets through middle school into high school and is taking a big dump on JUCO and prep, right? Because they don't understand the one thing, they probably never played college sports. Second, they probably had a hard time playing high school level, and they just have no idea what it takes, the commitment, the longevity part of it, on what it's going to do when things change, right?
Yeah.
So like, um, I've been reading a couple books. There's a really good one. I quit reading. I got about 3/4 of the way through, but we talked about taking some ownership of all your decisions, right? So sometimes you just have to take ownership of the situation, and take ownership of kind of where you're at if you're a young coach, kind of growing up or what have you, or if that's just your mentality. People can subscribe or choose not to subscribe into it. That's fine. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're not. Your kid's going to grow up resenting you. Or he's going to quit playing.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think there's just a lot of life lessons. And like I said, that's happening. If that's happening in Hurricane Teays Valley, West Virginia,
Yeah.
more than likely that's happening in these more populated areas. So I don't know what the fix is for that. Um,
I
I don't
That's a
know.
good question. I think that's something we've probably fought for a long time. Well, I know it is. And I'm coaching my daughter's fifth grade team right now.
Yeah,
And I started coaching when I think I was 20 years old. I started coaching, in a youth league basketball here locally, and I always thought that my job with those age kids, like I wanted them to go to middle school
yeah,
with the mindset that sports was fun. They liked being part of a team. They liked being coached, and they felt comfortable, in that kind of environment, because those are all the things that kids either don't know or they're kind of battling against, is and a lot of times you get kids that come from, maybe not good home situations, and they're, maybe a little bit embarrassed about it or whatever, and they just want to be part of something, and I had many situations like that where kids just wanted to be a part of something. They wanted to be, they wanted to be where the perceived cool kids were at. They wanted to be a part of a team, a part of a group, and they wanted to get coached just like everybody else. They wanted a shot, and the best thing ever is, when having kids come back to you later on and thanking you for the experience that you had. And I had that over and over and over and over. And I accomplished, my best accomplishment was like, one kid in particular I can remember. He'd never played a sport. He'd come to me in the 5th grade. He'd never played a sport. He was overweight. He come from a terrible home situation, but he wanted to play basketball. So he comes in, he learns the game, tries to do everything right, and then he gets to middle school the next year as a 6th grader and realizes, I loved sport. This kid in his mind is, I love sports. I got to find something I can do. He knew he wasn't a basketball player, but it opened his eyes. Like, he knew then he wanted to be in some sort of sport. He goes on and wrestles, and I think he made the state wrestling tournament 2 or 3 times in the time he was in high school. That kid had zero. That kid, when he came to me, had zero chance. Zero chance, And I wasn't going to try to make him a basketball player. I knew he wasn't going to be a basketball player, but my job was to coach him like I coached everybody else and open his eyes to what it felt like being on a team. My job wasn't to coddle him, and tell him how great he is, and we'll get you to play more minutes or whatever. Like, he understood that the better he was, the more things that he did right, the more time he would play. He understood that he didn't have a high level of knowledge of the game. Like, he understood all that stuff. But like I said, I had to coach him. No, I didn't yell or scream or anything like that at him, but he was part of the team. He understood. He had to understand his role, and like I said, he goes to middle school and he finds what lane he wanted to be in, and it used to be that kid used to reach out to me once a year, probably when he was before he had a family, before he's married. He might be retired out of the military. Well, I'm dating myself there. He might be retired out of the military by now, married with kids. He used to reach out to me once a year and just thank me.
That's cool.
Because he felt I had some responsibility in his direction in life, and maybe I did. I'm not going to take credit for that. He has, he did that on his own, but. And I'm not trying to, make a Hallmark movie here, but I'm just saying, like,
that's a good example of a kid.
It is.
Grabbing the opportunity.
That little bit of influence, just that little that experience of just letting a kid know, I want to play sports. And it was the first thing I told our parents. We had a parent meeting with my girls, my daughter's team. It was the first thing I told them. I said, my job is to, if they learn basketball in this process, great. But I said, my job is to open their eyes so they feel comfortable participating in sports going forward. Because here where I live, and of course where you live, and we have, there's 3,000 different sports they can play when they get to middle school. There's volleyball, there's golf, there's wrestling, there's even for girls, there's girls wrestling, there's they can do so many things, and I want those kids to participate in something.
Well, I just found out about mountain biking. Mountain biking is a sport now.
Yeah. So, that's the way I've always approached, coaching youth sports. The girls the girls I'm coaching right now, like they have to be coached hard, but they like it. They like it. I don't have to scream or yell to coach them hard. I have to hold them accountable. That's all I have to do. I don't make
Yeah.
them do push-ups. I don't make them. But when they do something wrong, I pull them over to the side and I say, "Hey, look, that's not what we. That's not how we were going to do that." Um, we work on, like tonight. We'll do 90 minutes of absolute fundamentals, and when we win our game on Saturday, just if we've won, well, I've told them after the first 2 times we won this year, all those fundamental things that you hate that we did in practice every day, that's why you won these games. It's not because I'm smarter than the other coach or you guys are bigger or faster. Like, you did all the things right and you try to do things right. And they need to learn that part of sports. Like, that's just part of it. You put that little bit of work in during the week and then you get the payoff. Your payday is on Saturday when you go play the other fifth grade girls team from wherever. Like, that's where and that should translate into another sport down the road, because there's probably
Nice.
4 of these girls out of 10 are going to play basketball in middle school and high school. The rest of them are going to play something else, and I'm going to see to it that they play something else because I want them to be, have such a good experience here. So that's what it's all about. With the declining, and I'm sure I'll get some blowback on this from some areas of some people, but there's a big decline in participation. And, I take that personally, and I take it as my responsibility to try to hedge that as much as possible with creating good outcomes and good experiences for kids in these situations. So, but it is what it is. You can't fix it up. You can't fix everything. But yeah, I get it, and I've seen it. I've seen that for 30 years. It's unfortunate. What you're seeing there with that particular coach or coaches.
Oh yeah, it's the coaches. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with getting after it, and if the kid likes playing, whatever. But let's have some purpose in the conversation. Like,
Yeah,
let's just not yell at a kid just to yell at him, like in front of everybody. Like, if you're doing that, you're kind of embarrassing yourself. My drill sergeant, I had 2 of them. I had 2 drill sergeants when I joined the Air National Guard over 14 years ago. And he, after week 3 or 4, after they break you down, they shave your head, you're not talking during chow, you're making 53 beds in 5 minutes. After they break you down and all that, and you're pushing Texas on and off all day long as far as doing push-ups, he in the room that we gathered, I forget what they called it. Anyways, he took his hat off, and this is what he said. These are all grown men in the military, and he said, "Hey, if we're outside these doors and I need to yell at you like a drill sergeant is supposed to, you're showing me that I'm a weak drill sergeant, that I'm a weak supervisor of my flight. I need you, as soon as we get out these doors, march correctly, do all the right movements, yes sir, no sir, all that type of stuff." And that really kind of stuck with me, because if you
yeah,
think about it as a coach, right? If you're
yeah,
a coach and you're in that room and you're constantly just yelling all the time, you're not getting anything accomplished besides giving yourself a headache and losing your voice.
yeah,
So my thing is, especially with younger kids, that's great. Coach the kids. The standard is Mike Tomlin, right? The standard's the standard, right? But you got to have a realistic goal going into the season. What do I want my kids to accomplish out of this? And there's nothing wrong with competition. But as far as correcting a player, you don't need to. There's an approach to that. You don't belittle somebody. You don't belittle a 9-year-old for not knowing, how to box out 100% correctly and get a rebound and throw it to the outlet, right? So, but anyways, I wanted to clarify. There's nothing wrong with being a good coach, coaching them hard, having a standard. But man, come on, guys, let's get it together.
yeah,
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, man, we get on these soapboxes. We can talk all the time. Um, I think when we were talking about pre-recording, I think you kind of wanted to mention about the story of like how bracket sports became a thing. And sometimes I'm an open book, but honestly, After one of my deployments, I came back home. My buddy Ronnie Smith, he does a great job. Him, Dave, um, and Song, Kevin Young, they do a good job of running Tri-State Pride. They're a girl affiliated with a girls only program affiliated with New Balance, and they run the MB2K circuit, and they were real competitive last year. They have 10 teams this year, and these guys, I think they got the right approach as far as the core coaches, very lax. They have fun. They do a good job promoting their girls, and they do a good job coaching. They coach. I think they have practice 2 or 3 times a week. They play in non-live period tournaments. They play in live period tournaments. They got a national championship to play for each and every year. They focus everything on the high school players as far as and then development and those younger organizations. So Ronnie, I played high school and college football. Ronnie, he's one of my closest friends. And we went out to eat shortly after I got back from my last deployment, and we were having a conversation, and he's talking about how he ran a couple of tournaments, and he said he did everything wrong. He said, "Hey, I'd like to bring you in, see if we can do it right." And I already had the logo and the domain kind of saved a couple of years ago, and we kind of just sat on it. And I was like, you know what? After getting attacked 17 times all throughout Iraq and going to Kuwait and all over the place, and you know what? I think you're right, Ronnie. I think it's time for a change, buddy. And so, anyways, we threw 3 tournaments. They were pretty good tournaments. They were a couple of them were horrible dates, but we were new to it. I was new to it, so we figured it out. And then second season, really shot for the stars, overextended ourselves. We were in 2 sports and 22 tournaments. We had a couple cancellations that we had to cancel due baseball due to weather or a bunch of idiots. There was that year that Shawnee State, they had a big baseball tournament there, and some idiots did a drive-by, so we ended up canceling our tournament for the next weekend in respect to that. But anyways, you had these things that you can't control kind of happen. And then last year we had a really good year, sold out most of our tournaments. This year we've already got a bunch of inquiries already about our tournaments, and as you kind of got into the space, we started a nonprofit that really hasn't, that first year of the nonprofit, I never worked so hard in my life for very little payoff, because you're trying to give back to the communities that you serve, and we still have it open. We haven't done much with it. We did Below the Net podcast. I think I did 160 plus podcasts until I decided to kind of cut it off. It's pretty tough organizing. You'll find out. But it sounds like you got a good slate. You got you're scheduled out, so that's good. But we try to get into clothing as far as offering jerseys. So that was one big thing. As soon as I got into it, first couple of tournaments I threw, I'm brand new into it. And people are asking me if I know somebody that does jerseys because they've had bad experiences with buying internationally and having it brought over, or just local people kind of taking advantage of them. And so then you try to cater to everything, and then once you try to cater everything and you see there's not that big of a return, or a community doesn't really support it as much, then you kind of do some pushback, and you push back, start saying no. Then you're able to kind of actually focus on what you're really good at. So I think we're there as far as being able to focus on stuff that we're really good at. Most of the facilities that we host our tournaments now, the multi-court venues, they have their own videography or recordings of the games. And that's something we really want to highlight kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
There's a venue, the Bridge in Bridgeport, West Virginia. I love it. I love the facility. I love the people, the grown adults that work it, that are there the entire weekend, and they got that service, and I think it's up to us to kind of promote that more, because it's free. It's really good, and I think that's awesome. But anyways, no, I think yeah, that's how kind of Bracket Sportz came up. Kind of out of nowhere. This is kind of short, sweet part of it. And yeah, I don't think there's going to be any quit. We're going to be around for a long time. We got our fourth annual tournaments coming up, and we keep getting positive feedback. And if things change, as far as I know they're going to change. I know the landscape's going to change. So as the landscape changes, and if we're able to kind of make some minor adjustments where it doesn't ruin the quality of the tournament, we'll make those adjustments, and we'll go as long as we can. But yeah, that's kind of how it came up, and yeah.
Good deal. And I appreciate that. And I think it's important to give everybody some background and purpose behind what you're doing and where it came from and all that. So if you don't have anything else, we'll wrap it up and save the rest for another day.
No, sounds good, dude. All right, man, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, and we'll talk again, and we'll come back, especially in the spring, and start highlighting your events and review some of those. Hopefully, I can get to some of them, this year. But that would be great. But it's it's every weekend. I'm tied up somewhere. So if I'm not at work, I'm somewhere else. But anyway,
dude, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle Scott Strode at an event I'm working, brother. I need some sleep.
I won't tell you. I'm just going to sneak in.
You're supposed to sneak in.
I'm going to sneak into town, and yeah. I won't tell you. It'll be a surprise attack.
Nice. I love it.
So, all right, Zach. Appreciate you again, and again, Zack Deal from Bracket Sportz, and we're going to wrap it up, and that puts us about an hour and 23 minutes, so that'll work out just perfect. So, Zach, thank you again, and we'll be coming back with you another episode maybe after the first of the year.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.